I thought we were just best friends watching Netflix, until his hand slipped. One touch and suddenly 10 years of just guys being guys turned into a question we couldn't unask. But what started on my couch unraveled everything. Our identities, our families, and the lie we'd been living. What if your best friend is the love of your life, and you've been blind to it? I didn't mean to flinch, but when Marcus's hand landed on my leg, higher than it had any business being, I froze like I'd been exposed. Like the remote wasn't the only thing we were reaching for. We were just two guys, best friends, 12 years of inside jokes and bad pizza. Friday nights were sacred. Dumb movies, arguing over plot holes, laughing at everything and nothing. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't supposed to be. Until it was. He didn't pull his hand back, and I didn't tell him to move it. Marcus shifted like he hadn't realized what he'd done, but his hand stayed. Warm, intentional. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't tell if I was scared of him pulling away or scared that he wouldn't. "Sorry," he said, voice low, but he still didn't move. "It's fine," I said too quickly. It wasn't. I looked at him, really looked. The curve of his jaw I'd seen 1,000 times, the smirk I'd hated every time he beat me at Mario Kart. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had. "What are we doing?" I asked. He didn't answer right away, just stared at the Netflix menu screen like it held some kind of map we hadn't noticed before. Then, "I don't know, but I don't want to stop." He could have laughed, could have made a joke and let the moment pass like it never happened. That's what we'd always done. Deflect, laugh, bury, but not this time. "I think about this," he said, "more than I want to admit." "Think about what?" He swallowed. "You, United States, this." I sat completely still. "We're not like that." His thumb moved slightly, brushing over the denim stretched across my leg. "Aren't we?" It should have been ridiculous. Two straight guys on a couch, arguing over movie genres one minute and staring into each other's eyes the next. But it wasn't funny. It was terrifying. It was magnetic. "I've never done this before," I said. "Me neither. So what are we even saying?" "That maybe we've been lying to ourselves." I wanted to laugh, wanted to say, "That's insane," or "You're drunk." But Marcus wasn't drunk. Neither was I. And the heat rushing up my neck wasn't confusion. It was recognition. "You're serious." I've never been more serious in my life. I let the silence sit between us, heavy and loud. Then I asked, "So what now? What are you expecting?" "Nothing," Marcus said. But I had to say it, because if I didn't, I'd keep pretending that this, whatever this is, doesn't matter. And it does, to me it does. We were still sitting close, too close for best friends, not close enough for whatever this was becoming. I shifted and he moved with me, like we were synced in a way I hadn't noticed before. "You're my best friend," I said. "Yeah," he whispered, "and that's the problem." "What do you mean?" "I think I've been in love with you since college," he said, voice almost breaking. But I didn't know it. I thought it was just loyalty, or habit, or something easy to explain. And now? Now I can't unfeel it. A tight knot formed in my chest. Not fear, just too much. Too fast. Too raw. I wasn't ready, but I wasn't running either. "You're sure this isn't just some phase?" I asked, quieter now. "God, I wish it was." He laughed without humor. "Would make everything easier. I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm just tired of pretending this isn't real." I stared at the screen again. The flashing trailers, the endless autoplay loop. Life outside of this moment felt ridiculous, like noise we didn't need anymore. "I don't know what I feel," I said, "but I feel something." "That's enough," Marcus said. "For now." Neither of us moved. Not away, not closer. Just there. And for the first time, there didn't feel safe. It felt dangerous. But maybe that was exactly what we needed. Because right then, as I looked at Marcus and tried to pretend everything was still normal, my phone buzzed with a message that would make pretending impossible. My phone buzzed. One vibration. Two. Then a third. Long, pulsing, like the world wanted in. I reached for it on instinct, barely glancing at the screen. The message preview hit like a punch. This was supposed to go to my girlfriend?" Sent by Marcus. To me. I looked at him. He looked pale. "You sent it to me." "What?" He grabbed his phone, eyes scanning. Froze. "Shit." I read the whole thing now, still thinking about that moment, about his leg under my hand. Can't believe I finally touched him. My mouth went dry. You meant to send this to her? He didn't answer. You told someone? He nodded. I didn't name you. I swear. She's just been asking questions. I slipped. I didn't think it mattered. You didn't think it mattered? My voice cracked. I stood up. This wasn't a private experiment anymore. This wasn't safe. I just needed to tell someone, Jordan. You told someone before you even talked to me? I said, low and sharp. You told your girlfriend? She wasn't. Marcus trailed off. It's complicated. No, it's not. You're either in or you're not. You don't get to play both sides and drag me into it. He looked like I'd slapped him. That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing, Marcus? What is this? He didn't have an answer, and I didn't have patience. I paced, heart hammering in my ears. Everything felt off balance. The way his hand had felt on my leg now felt radioactive, like something stolen, something unearned. I shouldn't have said anything, Marcus muttered. I ruined everything. I stared at him. You didn't ruin it by saying something. You ruined it by making me your secret. That's when the second message came. From Chloe, Marcus's now definitely ex-girlfriend. Tell your boyfriend to stop texting me about your little moment. I'm done being part of this closet case drama. I laughed. It wasn't funny, not even close. But the absurdity split something in me. She knows. He looked gutted. I'll fix it. No, you won't. I grabbed my jacket. He stood. Where are you going? Out. Jordan, don't, please. I didn't mean for this to get messy. Too late. His voice dropped. Are you ashamed? I stopped cold. What did you say? He stepped closer, but I didn't move. You're scared, fine. So am I. But don't pretend like I'm the one hiding. I turned. You had a girlfriend, Marcus. You sent her messages about touching me. You put me in that story without asking. That's not bravery. That's selfish. He deflated. I just didn't want to lose you. You should have thought about that before turning our moment into gossip. He opened his mouth, closed it again. Silence. I left. The fallout was immediate. By Monday, the story had traveled. A friend of Chloe's texted me. So you and Marcus are a thing now? Then a coworker. Didn't know you were into dudes, bro. Cool, just surprised. No rage, no violence. Just cold, awkward knowing. And the worst part? Marcus didn't call. Not that day, not the next. I tried to forget it. Buried myself in work, forced smiles, ignored questions. But every time I looked at my phone, there was this phantom ache, like waiting for something that used to be automatic. It was Friday night again. No knock on my door, no Marcus. But I couldn't sit in silence. I texted him. You good? No reply. I wrote again. Guess not. Still nothing. That night, I opened my laptop and stared at the blank Netflix menu for hours. The couch felt colder than usual, like it knew something had been broken. The next morning, I got a voicemail. Marcus's voice, rough, like he'd been crying or yelling. Maybe both. I messed up. I know that. I made you feel used or exposed, and I hate that. But Jordan, that moment meant everything to me. I've been lying to myself for years. And then I touched you, and it was like something woke up. And now I can't sleep. I can't eat. I miss you, man. I miss us. Call me, or just don't pretend it didn't mean anything. Please. I listened to it twice. Then I deleted it. I didn't know what I felt anymore. Rage, shame, want. The next Friday, he showed up at my door, rain-soaked, shaking, and holding something I never expected to see. He stood on my porch with soaked hair and a printout in his hand. Is that? My letter of resignation, Marcus said. From the church. I stared at him. No umbrella, no jacket, just trembling hands and a document that meant more than he could ever explain. You quit? He nodded. I had to. I couldn't sit in those pews and let them keep preaching shame like love was something dirty. I stepped aside. He hesitated. Can I come in? I didn't answer. Just walked into the living room, leaving the door open behind me. Marcus followed. We stood in silence for a full minute. Not friends, not enemies, something in between. I'm not here to beg, he finally said. I know I don't get to do that. Then why are you here? He looked down at the paper, then back at me. Because I finally figured out who I am, and it doesn't make sense without you in it. I crossed my arms. That's not an apology. I know. And I'm not some symbol you can use to prove to yourself that you've changed. You're not a symbol, Jordan. You're the reason I changed. I wanted to scream, cry, maybe both. Instead, I said, you humiliated me. I know. You outed me without asking. I know that too. You ghosted me when it got hard. He nodded. Because I couldn't face what I did, and because I thought if I stayed quiet long enough, maybe you'd forget how bad I messed up. Well, I didn't. Good. That made me pause. Good, I said, my voice rising. Yeah, because if you'd just forgiven me right away, it would have meant it didn't matter. And it should matter. I screwed up, Jordan. I betrayed your trust. I broke something we spent over a decade building. I exhaled, hard. Then why show up now? He held out the paper. Because I want to start over. Not from where we left off. From where we should have started, if I'd been honest. I took the resignation letter and read the first line. I can no longer be part of a space that teaches me to hate who I love. You gave this to them? I asked. This morning. Pastor Davis said I was confused. I told him I'd never been more clear. I handed the paper back. My hands were shaking. You think that fixes it? I asked. Number. But it's a beginning. Marcus sat down, careful not to invade space I hadn't offered. I know we can't go back, but I had to tell you the truth before I could even hope for anything else. I stayed standing. Truth, I said. Okay, here's mine. I haven't stopped thinking about that night, about how everything made sense for 1 second, and then collapsed. I've questioned everything. My past, my feelings, my damn future. And yeah, maybe I miss you. But that doesn't erase the fact that you made me feel disposable. Marcus flinched. I'm not disposable, I said. I'm not some test run for your identity. You're not, he said quickly. You're the only thing that's ever felt real. I don't want promises, I warned. Not now. I don't trust them. He nodded. Then I won't give you any. Just this. I'm here. I'm not hiding anymore. And if you ever decide you want more than silence between us, I'll be around. We sat there for another long minute. Then I said, why'd you really leave the church? He hesitated. I kept picturing you sitting alone on the couch, he said. The one we used to share every Friday. And I realized that any belief system that tells me to feel shame for loving the person who knows me best isn't something I can believe in anymore. My throat tightened. That night, he added, voice quieter now, it didn't feel wrong. It felt like the first honest thing I've done in years. I didn't respond. Couldn't. He stood. I'll go. He turned toward the door, then stopped. But if you ever want to try again, don't finish that sentence, I said. He froze. I walked over, reached for his hand, took it gently. You don't get to walk away twice. His eyes filled, but he didn't speak, just nodded. We sat back down, closer now, still unsure, still aching, but not pretending anymore. The next day, Marcus's resignation letter went viral after someone at the church leaked it. And suddenly, we weren't just a personal story. We were a headline. By Sunday morning, we were trending. Someone from Marcus's old church had taken a photo of his resignation letter and posted it online, captioned, "Youth pastor quits over secret gay relationship. This is who's teaching your kids." There was no warning, no heads up, no chance to hide. I woke up to my phone vibrating nonstop. Notifications, missed calls, tags from people I hadn't heard from in years. And the headline was everywhere, not just local, national. Our private moment was now content. I called Marcus. He picked up on the first ring. I know. You okay? I asked. No, he said honestly, but I'm not running. The backlash hit fast. His parents called to say he'd embarrassed the family. My boss asked if I could maybe keep things quiet for a while until the press dies down. A neighbor looked right through me at the mailbox. An old friend sent a screenshot of the post with a single message. So it's true then? What hurt more than the hate was the silence. People who used to check in suddenly had nothing to say. But then, unexpectedly, the support started showing up. A woman from the youth group Marcus had mentored messaged, "You made me feel seen in ways the church never did. Thank you." A stranger sent a voice note. "My brother killed himself last year because he couldn't come out. Your story gave me peace. Please don't stop telling it. It didn't erase the hate, but it reminded us why truth mattered. We spent that night sitting in my car outside the coffee shop where we used to hang out after college. Neither of us spoke for a while. I feel like I ruined your life, Marcus said. You didn't, I answered. You changed it. There's a difference. He glanced over. You sure? Number. But I'm done pretending it's not worth the risk. He reached over, our fingers tangling without hesitation this time. The next morning, Marcus did something wild, brave, terrifying. He posted his own version of the story. A video, no scripts, just him. Raw. I wasn't forced out. I walked away. I walked away from a place that made me feel like love was a sin. I fell in love with my best friend, and for the first time in my life, I'm not ashamed of who I am. It hit 100,000 views in 12 hours. The comments were split. Half called him disgusting, half called him brave, but none of them ignored him. Then came the moment that would test everything. My mom called. I hadn't spoken to her in months. We were never close, but she always acted like she had ownership over the image of me she'd built in her head. I almost let it go to voicemail, but I didn't. You're all over the news, she said. I know. Is it true? Yeah. She was quiet, too quiet. Then, and you're happy? It was the first time she'd ever asked me that without already assuming the answer. Yes, I said. Not always, but more than I've ever been. Okay. That's all she said before hanging up. It wasn't support, but it wasn't condemnation. Sometimes neutrality is a gift. Later that week, Marcus came over with 2 coffees and a nervous smile. I got a job offer, he said. Where? Seattle, LGBTQ youth nonprofit. They want me to help lead mentorship programs. I froze. You're leaving? They want both of us, he added. What? They saw the video and your response. They want us to speak, travel, be visible. I didn't answer. He looked at me. We don't have to say yes, but they're offering us a life where we don't have to be afraid anymore. I walked over, took the coffee, took his hand. I don't want to be famous, I said. We're not. We're just honest. That's louder than fame right now. He was right. A month later, we stood on a small stage in front of 60 teenagers and told them the truth. Not the viral version, the real one. About the fear, the silence, the mistake, the kiss, the fallout, the rebuilding. And after we finished, one boy in the back raised his hand and asked, "How did you know it was real?" Marcus looked at me. I smiled. Because after everything fell apart, he still showed up. This wasn't the life we planned. It's the one we built after the walls fell. And maybe that's the only kind of love that ever really lasts. 6 months later, we were still answering questions we didn't know how to ask ourselves. The attention had mostly faded. The headlines had cooled. But what lingered was quieter and heavier. What do you do when the world has seen the most fragile version of your relationship before you've even figured it out yourself? Marcus was adapting better. He'd settled into the nonprofit in Seattle like he'd always belonged there. The kids loved him. Parents, not always. But he'd stopped trying to win them. I wasn't adjusting as quickly. I missed being anonymous. I missed simple things, like walking into a store without wondering who recognized us. And I hated how much of our story belonged to strangers now. One night, after a long day of interviews and meetings, and another round of being inspiring, we sat in the kitchen and didn't talk. Just silence. Heavy again. Familiar now. Then Marcus said, "Do you regret it?" I looked up. Which part? Coming out, publicly, with me. It wasn't a dramatic question, just tired. I shook my head. Number, but I regret that it stopped being ours. He nodded like he understood completely. Sometimes I feel like we got rewritten into a symbol before we figured out what we were actually writing. I exhaled. It was supposed to be a private thing, a couch, a hand, a conversation, and then it became a movement. Neither of us smiled. Later that week, we got invited to speak at a conference. National, funded, polished, all the things we used to dream about before we had anything real to say. But when we arrived, something was off. The event organizer introduced us as survivors of religious trauma and pioneers of LGBTQ faith healing. Marcus leaned over and whispered, "I don't want to be a pioneer." I whispered back, I didn't survive anything. I'm still in it. We walked on stage anyway. Told a shorter version of the truth. The safe version. The palatable one. Afterward, a teenage girl came up, shaking. My brother was like you. He didn't make it. But your story helped my parents understand. Thank you for not hiding. That hit harder than anything else. That night in the hotel, I couldn't sleep. I got up, found Marcus staring out the window. I miss when this was just about us, I said. He nodded. Then let's take it back. How? No more panels, no more interviews. Not unless it's something we believe in. No more fixing people. No more being examples. I nodded. Just being us. Exactly. So we started pulling back. Quietly. No announcement. No dramatic exit. Just less noise. We stopped explaining our story and started living it. We made mistakes. We argued. We had boring Tuesdays and chaotic Sundays. We learned each other's habits like new terrain. And we learned how to say I'm sorry without shame. One night, almost a year to the day after the Netflix moment that started everything, we sat back on a couch. Different city, different couch, but same two people. He looked at me and asked, if we could go back, would you do it differently? No, I said, but I'd hold your hand sooner. Marcus smiled, not because it was perfect, not because it was easy, but because for the first time in a long time, it was finally ours again. Final voiceover style reflection. Some love stories don't start with first dates. They start with years of friendship, confusion, missteps, and finally, clarity. This wasn't the relationship we were taught to want. It wasn't the kind we'd seen growing up. It didn't come with a blueprint. It came with honesty. Messy, real, costly honesty. We didn't find each other through apps or clubs or meet cutes. We found each other in the silence between sentences. In the accidents that weren't. In the spaces we left untouched for years because we were scared of what they'd reveal. Love didn't come gently. It came loud and inconvenient, in public,